Evening. This is Chaya Parkoff and Rachel Burnham here with you for practical Chizuk in Emunah and Emunah for Shidduchim. And it is January 24th in the evening. It is the 19th of Shvat now. And we are here to share with you, really, Rachel will have a conversation, and Rachel will be able to share her wisdom. Why Rachel? Rachel Burnham is a dating coach with a tremendous amount of experience on the coaching side and on the dating side. And she, Baruch Hashem, happily married with 2 delicious children, and has been able to share with a lot of singles and their moms some practical help, how to keep, and so the purpose of this webinar, this is the second one that we're doing because we did one together and people asked us to do another one, and we're going to do them monthly, God willing, is really to help women and girls that are dating to really be able to, walk this part of life with a tremendous amount of emunah and bitachon and growing in that area, and be practical in the way that they navigate, because we don't always know how to navigate. So Rachel has a website called dategreat.com. So it's D, the number 8, GR, the number 8.com. And so there's a lot of resources on there. And then you can also email her at Rachel at dategreat, D, number 8, GR, number 8.com if you want to make an appointment with her. She's doing this completely. We're volunteering our time. She's not getting paid to do this. She's getting paid by the grand employer, but this is really just to provide chizuk. And please feel free to share the recording and the video or the audio with any other women or girls. So I have some questions that women have for you. So let's just start with let's see. Okay, let's just start with this one. Rachel, what are some good do's and don'ts when trying to help your child in dating? What are some do's and don'ts?
Good place to start. Firstly, thank you for having me. Very nice to be here with you and whomever else I'm speaking to. And all right, let's dive right in. So lots of do's and don'ts. Let's go through a few of them. Again, each one of these questions I'm sure we can spend a very long time on, but we're going to try to, get some nuggets and some pearls that we can get together so everyone can kind of digest a bit at a time. Everyone loves their child. Everybody wants to care for their child. And at a very young age, we're able to give to our children and take care of all of their needs. And as they're young, we really can get them the food they need, the clothes they need, help them, with their friends in school, what camps they want to go to. But as children get older, it's obviously harder to take care of everything for them. We can't control all experiences. And dating is one of those experiences which we cannot control completely. And because of that, it can cause a tremendous amount of pain for the child who's going through that, but also the parent who feels limited that they can't do more to help their child. They want to see their child married. They want to see their child happily moving forward. And it's very painful to stand by their side watching them go through this very, very difficult and challenging time. For some, it's very quick, and for some it takes a lot longer, and that's okay, because as I say, dating is a process of self-discovery. So there are 2 ways in which we can get married. Sometimes people need to get married very young and get married to someone who is also very young, and they will grow up from children. They will grow up together in order to become the people who they need to become in life, and they need to go through that growth experience. And sometimes people need to grow up and develop themselves in order to meet that grown up, more developed person that they are meant to be with. Neither way is right or wrong. They're just different. And so I guess in our society, we tend to think, younger is better, young and dumb, just marry them off. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. I think as a parent, we want to make sure that they're okay, they're settled, they're good. But what's really more crucial about younger or older is finding the right person, because this is kind of, we hope, a long-term decision. And so we want to make sure that it's a good one as opposed to just being done. I often felt when I was single that people were more invested in seeing me checked off the grand shidduch list than they were as to who I was actually spending the rest of my life with. Luckily, I cared more about who I was actually spending the rest of my life with, as opposed to just being kind of checked off the list. But let's get back to the do's and don'ts. So as a parent, sometimes, here are just a few tips, sometimes that emotional support, just validating the feelings. It's so hard. I feel your pain. It's so difficult. This is so challenging. I so want you to be there. I'm telling you, when he comes, it's going to be worth it. I am here by your side. You're davening. I'm davening. Let's make the most of these single years. Let's go out together. Let's spend time. Maybe we'll go on a little trip. Let's go out for coffee. Let's talk about it. It's a chance for parents to build a relationship with their children in a deeper way than they were able to when they were young and not dating, because now they're really moving into mature adulthood, and you can talk to them about things that you never really talked to them before. And so for some parents, it's very hard when their 19-year-olds just kind of go off and get married, because they kind of feel like, it's still my baby. I still, want my baby at home, and she's all of a sudden going to be a mother. And what do you mean? She was just in my arms like a few years ago, So I think just kind of that anochi b'tzara, like, I'm here for you. I'm here with you. We're going through this together. To not allow that single child to feel alone in the process is huge, because they already feel alone. They already feel like, I'm lonely. I want to find that, other half. So to not have that additional feeling of loneliness, that I know I can rely on my parent. I know that even if my parent can't change anything, they're always going to be there for me. So that would be a do. A don't on the same thing would be, in the same vein would be, why don't you do this? And you should have done that. And you should have gone to this shadchan. And you shouldn't be going on vacation. You should be staying home and dating in your winter break. And, this one seemed to get married and that one seemed to get married. I don't know why you can't do it if you only lost weight, if you only daven more, if you only went to that shadchan. These comments are not helpful. They do not do anything. They will not change anything. So what you're actually doing is really just damaging the fabric of the relationship with you and your child. And when that child actually does get married or does meet that right person, I'm not sure they're going to want to share that experience with you as deeply, because you weren't with them in the hard times. And so we want to build that relationship with our children, that we're there with them in the hard times, and therefore they want to be with us in the good times. We don't just want to be that parent where we're with you in the hard times, with you in the good times. I'm sorry. So that would be one idea. A second idea would be, it is very normal to make phone calls to neighbors, friends, shadchanim, Rosh Yeshivas, depending on what your connections are within your community, whatever the norms are, whatever your comfort level is. Not in a way which would come across as harassing. Do not call them every day. Do not call them every week. Sometimes a once a month Rosh Chodesh check-in is a useful idea. Sometimes once every 3 months. No pressure. Just wanted to remind you, my daughter's still single and she's open to ideas. If you have an idea, that's great. If not, I completely respect that. Mm-hmm. Just something very respectful. Remember that the way in which you treat that neighbor, friend, Rosh Hashiva, Shadchan, is going to leave an impression about who your daughter is to that person. So if you're going to be pushy and, well, my daughter's been dating for 3 years and I think you should pay more attention to her than the girl who's 19 coming home from seminary, I'm telling you that Shadchan does not want to work with you. And you can have a diamond of a girl. She's still not going to want to work with you. I know. I do workshops for the Shadchanim. So I can tell you.
We know.
Yes, I can tell you with the comments I get on the other side. So, a light nudge is very helpful. Do contact people that you know. So, for instance, I really think it's important that as much as we want to call the big name shadchanim and send out resumes all over the place and the big Rosh Yeshivas, I think it is important to focus on people who know you, love you, have your vested interests at heart. Close neighbors, close friends, close family. Oh, you know what? It's so funny. I was just in the bungalow colony this summer with a woman, and she was talking about her son, and it actually sounds like it might actually be a really good idea for your daughter. You know, stick with people who know you well, because when they have a really good idea, they're going to think about someone that they really care about. And if that would be you, then, you know, I think it would be a shidduch that comes from a really good place, already is starting out on a positive, you know, footing. As a parent, we tend to, not as a parent, as anyone, we tend to look for buzzwords. So for instance, if a shidduch comes from a specific name, a big shadchan, someone that we know very well, a very big rebbitzin, all of a sudden the shidduch like exponentially goes up 10 notches, okay? And what happens is, for a lot of people, and I hear this a lot, when I don't know the name, I never heard of this shadchan, I never heard of this person, so the shidduch all of a sudden must not be that great. And so they just push it to the bottom of the pile. Now here's the thing. I don't know what that shidduch is. It could be that it's not a very good shidduch, and therefore maybe it needs to be put to the bottom of the pile. I have no idea. But it should be researched, because sometimes very innocent people who don't have big fancy names have a good idea. You know, my favorite story is a friend of mine who walked into a shoe store in Miami, and there was a little old lady sitting in the corner, and she said, "Oh, have I got a boy for you? Such a nice boy. He's handsome, and he's so from, and he davens all the time, and he never used to be religious, but then he became religious, and he's not fanatic, but he's like really cool. You would love him." And the girl's thinking like, "Yeah, thank you, grandma." That's, you know, the woman wasn't from, and the woman wouldn't let her go. "No, you gotta. I need to take a picture of you. I gotta call my grandson." Long story short, my friend married her grandson.
Wow.
Okay. And we all laugh about it today, but nobody wanted to take her seriously because she was a cute little lady who wasn't from, but she had a grandson who became from, and he was a wonderful, wonderful guy. And, you know, just be careful how we judge and perceive the messages coming from someone who might not seem like a shadchan, but you know what? The ultimate shadchan is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The messenger can be anybody. So it really can be anybody. So I would say keep an open mind as to where these ideas are coming from. Obviously, they need to be researched, but those are just like a few do's and don'ts, just to kind of get us started.
It reminds me, that's hilarious, and it reminds me so much of you know, I think of so many of the moms that are trying to marry off their kids met their spouses because their Aunt Frida and his Aunt Tildy, you know, went to the bungalow colony together or the pool or what have you. And she's like, "You've got a son, I've got a daughter." And that's it. And that's how they met. And it was good enough for them, but it's not good enough for their kids, right? So
well, we say we marry off our children based on the say-so of 5 strangers.
Right. Isn't that amazing? But because they're famous. Because they're famous strangers.
Right. Or I have friends who are shadchanim, and the only reason why they're writing certain shidduchim is because people are calling them and saying, "Could you read this? Could you read that?" They're not going to listen to me, but they'll listen to you.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you got to be careful. A lot of people are saying no when they should be saying yes. A lot of people are saying yes when they should be saying no.
So that leads me into a really good question. And that I think is a good segue into the next one. And of course, you know, you said the most important thing, which is the real shadchan is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's the truth, and that's what we always want to remember, because that's the truth. But we, as these human beings,
this one didn't read it, and that one didn't read it. Hashem has ways to figure out that it should get read.
They'll put a little old lady in a shoe store in Miami.
Exactly.
You know? So talking about research, how much research do you do? What do you need to know? What do you need to ask? What should you not ask or not answer? Yeah, so really the research question. And how do you know when to say yes or when to say no? What are some either signposts or general, you know, one thing we say with my daughter is like, we're not going to try to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like if it just seems so like it doesn't make sense, we're not going to do just, and I don't know what your feeling is about that because we didn't speak about this, but just to go out, because that also, like, sometimes you could burn out by just going out with anybody, you know?
Sure. Okay, so let's get started on this. So research is obviously very, very important. And as you know, as much research as you do, you're only going to find out what Hashem wants you to find out. And you can speak to many happily married people who said, if I would have known that his family was like this and her mother was like that, I don't think I would have. Listen, Hashem put you exactly where you needed to be. We might not like to hear that, but that is true. And the other thing is, on the other hand, if we knew everything about this guy and everything about this girl, we would run. And the reason we know that is most people don't choose to marry someone within their own community. They tend to always look outside of the community. You know why? Because they don't know that person's stuff. When you live in a community, you know all the politics, and he said and she said, and one time she wore that, and one time she did that. You know, when you pick someone from another town, innocence is bliss. It doesn't mean that there isn't something there. It just means that you don't know about it. So we're going to research to the best of our ability. We're going to try to protect our children and make sure that, and this is crucial, that their needs in a relationship are being respected. That is extremely important. That's a whole nother topic, but something that I'm really into is needs versus wants. When you sit down with our children and make a list of what is a need and what is a want. Needs are things that we cannot live without in a relationship. If we did not have those components, the relationship would most probably not survive. And wants are, it would really be nice to have. I would really love a guy with money. I would really love a guy who was 6'2" and above. But if you didn't have those things, you probably could build a wonderful home and a wonderful relationship with him. And so it's important to know what those things are. So when you're doing research, you have that in the back of your mind to listen for the things that they're saying. Do some of those needs resonate with you as you're getting to know more about this person that you're researching? Okay, so now that we know we're only going to hear what we are supposed to hear, so a couple things to listen for. Instead of doing a lot of the talking, try to do a lot of the listening. Mm-hmm. Don't only listen for what they say, but for how they say it, okay? So for instance, Shandy, Shandy's a very, I would call her smart. I think she's a smart girl. She's very sweet. She's very pretty. And I think she'll make a wonderful mother. I think she'll make a wonderful mother. As opposed to, oh my goodness, Shady, she's such an amazing neshama. I love her. She always comes to the house. She plays with the kids. She does all these projects with them. Any boy who marries her is going to be the luckiest boy ever. Okay? So you can hear the way I said that, basically didn't give over such different information, but it really was crucial to hear the intonation of someone's voice, how they present it. So that's one thing. The second thing is look out for questions that are being ducked. If I ask you a direct question and you keep trying to dodge the question, why is that? Does he go to Minyan? He is such a warm person. Such a sweet boy. He has such a connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Mm-hmm. Does he go to Minyan? It's a pretty straightforward yes or no question for the most part. Sometimes it could be mostly inconsistent. It could be. A lot of girls don't realize how difficult going to Minyan actually is.
Yes. And
I often wonder if a girl was a guy, which I don't mean to, discuss, but I wonder if she would go to Minyan every day if she was a guy. And so girls are very quick to judge, oh, he doesn't go to Minyan? Not for me. Oh, he wants Mr. Shakros? Not for me. But you know what? If you'd be a guy, I'd love to know what your track record is. So I'm not here to say if a guy doesn't go to Minyan, that's okay. I'm not here to say that. But he's not perfect and he messes up a little bit here or there, but in general, he goes to Minyan and he tries very hard to get better and better at it. That to me is enough to move forward. A growing person is more important to me than someone who just never missed anything ever. It could be that he's just a good morning person and he does that well. And what does that say about his ability to be a great father? I don't know.
Right, might be cranky at night.
So maybe Mr. Shakros and Mrs. Mariv, I don't know.
Right. I'm on the other side as a therapist. So I talk to women who, guess what? They married a guy who goes to Minyan 3 times a day and he learns every night, and then they get married. And guess what? He doesn't always go.
That's right.
Then learning, I don't feel like it.
Exactly.
You're going to find out what you find out.
The baby was up. I had to work late. Yeah,
exactly. But on a funny note, I was talking about this with my friend yesterday about the Minyan such thing. And because I actually was talking to a boy and he is such a lovely, lovely guy. I'm doing some research I have to find a girl for him because he's such a great guy. And I asked him about it and he, about Minyan. I said, girls want to know. And he said, I daven 3 times a day. He said, but it's so early here. He just came back from a city where they have minyanim, you know, around the clock, and here they have 6:30, you know, and that's the minyan. He's like, it's so early. It's so early, you know. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this, like, do we not even look into it now? Da, da, da. And she said that a Rav once said to her, a woman can never know how geschmack it is to sleep in and know you'll just daven when you feel like it. You know, that like.
No, it's true. And girls don't really understand this. They don't. They don't. So I'm just throwing it, I'm not anti-going to minyan. I'm just throwing it out there. If you hear a boy is in general always in minyan and once in a while he's a little bit lax, I would say that's often, that's human. It's human. And if you hear everything else that's good about him and he is a from Yerushalayim growing person, I wouldn't say that it would be worthwhile to toss out a shidduch just because of that. Okay, so a few other research tips. It's very important to look out for red flags. So for instance, the way someone says information about a boy, if they say things that are kind of a little uncomfortable, maybe he's sounding a little tough or angry, or maybe he sounds like a little bit controlling from the way, or, you know, he really likes things his way, like all the time. Is he a flexible person? No, not really. I wouldn't call him a flexible person. I would call him more of a leader. Like he likes to be like the leader, let's say. So that doesn't have to be a bad thing, but you might want to like just note to self, just kind of file that information away. Also, when someone talks about midos, right? Midos is like good midos. He has good midos. Oh, great. He has bad midos. Oh, terrible. I've never had someone call me and say, oh, hi, you know, I'm looking for a guy, a really great guy, sweet, good-looking guy. I mean, if he has an anger management problem, that's totally understandable. And, you know, if he's, you know, if he has some sort of, you know, mental health disorder, that's also okay. I can handle. Nobody says that to me. Everybody wants the best, greatest guy, even though we all know that people are human and we all have flaws and we all have mistakes. Make the mistakes that we make, and we're none of us are perfect. But when it comes to a shidduch, somehow we're looking for that perfection, in a sense, even though we're not. And to me, I would much rather hear, well, what is that imperfection? Instead of pretending that it's not there. So, can you list 2 or 3 flaws that he has? You know, we all have flaws. It's not an insult. I'm not trying to dig lashon hara, but we all have flaws. So let's not pretend that we don't. What are they? Maybe he's very diligent. So, you know, when he is in school, his homework takes him a lot longer because he's very thorough. He likes to move through life, like very slowly, but very diligently and very thorough. Okay, let's say, okay. He's really good about details, but maybe sometimes it could get a little critical because he's so detail-oriented. Something that will give you insight so that we can see he's a real person. And you know what? I think my child could handle that, or my kid could never handle that, right? And on the flip side, he has great midos. Wait, can you tell me a story? Oh my goodness, one time there was this, you know, guy who started a camp, and then the workers, they didn't show up, and he started helping, schlepping beds and furniture, and who knows, and he didn't even ask for a penny, and he just came back for weeks to help out. You know, that will be able to give you insight into what kind of midos does this person actually have, because a midah is a measurement, and we don't just want good midos or bad midos. We want a midos that are within the right measurement for our child. And that's super important. So listen for those details. Listen for what's being said. Listen between the lines for what's not being said. According to the laws of Shmir Salashon, if you ask a direct question, you should be getting a direct answer. But if you don't ask a direct question, I don't have to volunteer information. So if I don't ask you, is she on medication for depression, you don't have to volunteer the information. But if I ask you, is Leah on antidepressants? Because I would like to know. By the way, that's not a reason to say no to a shidduch. You need to know your child and what they can handle, and there is a shidduch out there for everyone. I even have an article out there on this topic. If anyone's interested, they could read on my website, dealing with mental illness, dating with mental illness. So if you ask the direct question, they should give you a direct answer. If they don't know the answer, then they'll say they don't know the answer. But so direct questions, if you have very specific questions to ask, that might be useful to ask them very directly. And in general, you'll often feel that you get a certain feeling towards, this sounds like it has some potential, or this is really out of the ballpark. Okay. Now, I'm not all for just trusting our gut. I'm very pro the facts. If this is really sounds like it can meet the needs of my child in many areas, it might be worth going out. Even if there's one thing I'm not sure about, that's where we go out. We go to try. Now, you had mentioned just go out to go out. No, nobody's interested in just dating just to date, to waste each other's time. I think that becomes very overwhelming and creates burnout, and it's not necessary. When you're much older and you've been dating for many years, and this I say with a really big caveat, because this is not for everybody, but if you are 30, 32 plus, and you've been dating for many years and you know yourself very, very well, and options don't often come your way, I would recommend, to a seldom few, again, this is not for everybody, but to a seldom few, if they took off certain prerequisites, that they should consider doing 1 hour coffee dates. 1 hour coffee dates is, in my mind, a way to keep your mind open to other suggestions that you might not have been open to, but to prevent burnout, because you're not going out for 5 hours, you're going out for a 1 hour coffee, and you make sure that the shadchan knows this beforehand. I'm not cutting it off after an hour because I don't like him, but if it's going well, let's go on a proper date. And this is something that I used to do it. I'll be honest with you, I used to do it. And I was able to prevent a tremendous amount of burnout while still maintaining that open-mindedness. Mm-hmm. And to be quite honest, I never would have dated my husband if I didn't do it, because I did not want to go out with my husband. He knows. But I did go out with him because I said, I'll meet him for a 1 hour coffee. And in my mind, like, I couldn't get too burnt out from an hour. Now, if I had nothing to say to someone over an entire hour, I'm not going out for another 4 hours. I'm just not going out again. If, it seemed like, oh, this has some potential, then after the hour, we would end it, and we would set up a date to go out on a proper date. So it was like 1 hour, no major commitment on both sides. Nobody has to feel pressure. I found it to work well, but it's not for your younger audience. It's really for an older group who is really kind of very, well-versed in dating and very comfortable and knows themselves pretty well.
That's a great point. It reminds me of something that Rivka Krumholtz once said to me. She's a therapist out on the island, and we were talking. She's a mentor of mine, colleague of mine. And she said, when you go out on a date, and I was going to ask you about this, so I'm asking you what your feeling is.
Sure.
When you go on a date, whether it's 1 hour or it's 4 hours, but I love this 1 hour idea, you're really going to say, who is this human being that Hashem created? Like, who is this person? Not, am I going to marry them, but who is this person? Because I'll tell you, they might not be for you, but they might be for your roommate or for your cousin or for your best friend. My daughter did that. She made a shidduch. They're married, I think, 2 or 3 months now. She went out with a boy. She knew it wasn't for her. And she said, but I have an idea. And they got married a couple of months ago. So to have that attitude of, and then when you're on an hour date, you're saying, okay, I'm going to learn about another one of Hashem's beautiful, amazing creatures. Might not be the one that I choose to spend the rest of my life with, but they're still a valuable person just for the sake that they're made b'tselem Elokim, period. And who are they and what can I learn?
So I just want to add to that point. A lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves for getting to know somebody very, very quickly and knowing if he's for me, is he for me, is he the right one? And I really find that to be very damaging, because what happens is, we put ourselves in this stressful place where if we don't have the answer, then it must not be right. And that's not necessarily true. Any relationship that we've ever had in our life that has been deep and meaningful was built over a long period of time. Your relationship with your children, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your best friend, those are not relationships that happen in one coffee sitting. So we put this pressure on ourselves, or put this pressure on, not directly, but indirectly, that, what do you think? You think it's the one? Who knows? It's a stranger. So what I tell girls and guys is that what I want to hear from you at the end of the date is, I do not want to hear if you want to marry this person. I don't even care. If you say he's the one, it worries me even more. Right. If you come back from one date, it's just infatuation. It's nothing real. It's just like, I thought he was really cute. That's what it actually is. Mm-hmm. What I want to hear is, would I like to see this person again? That's it. Would I like to go out one more time? I didn't say engagement. I didn't say 6 dates. I didn't say marry him. One more date. And every date we come home and we say, I'd like to go on one more date. I'd like to go on one more date. Over time, what happens is as those 1, 2, 3 dates start to accumulate, we are going to start to feel like, wow, I really feel like we've really grown to get more comfortable with each other. And I really like his company and things are really heading somewhere. And I can see a lot of potential. Or just, I'm so done. I am so done with this. Like, take him away. If I have to go out on one more date with him, and you can see this as a mother, you can see these signs in your child. A relationship should be going in an upward motion. Here are the danger signs. Quick highs and quick lows, not good, okay? Slow and steady, incline. Now, when I say incline, it doesn't mean that there are going to be some dips. There will be some dips, usually between date 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. There's like, I really like this person. Great date. And it's like, oops, we had a weird conversation. I don't know about that. Okay, we worked through it. It's going well. Oh, we had another interesting conversation. But we worked through that. And if you're going slow and steady, moving on the way up, that's usually a healthy trajectory, and that's what we're looking for. Like we said, quick highs, quick lows are not a good thing. And if someone comes home and says, not for me, this is like a very common thing. I usually like to say, what wasn't for you? What are you so quick about? His personality, the way he looked. And if you break it down, a lot of times people can't even verbalize it. Sometimes it's just like a feeling. Now that feeling can sometimes be, he's a really great guy. I really like him. I've never had this feeling before. I am so scared about what that feels like. I could spend the rest of my life with this person that is too uncomfortable. I can't think about it, not for me. And because of that fight or flight, we basically shut that person out. And frankly, that could be your wife. That could be your husband. So what you want to do is, I tell people, I don't want to hear you want to marry him, you don't want to marry him. I want to hear, let's talk about it. What did you like about him? What would you like to see again? What bothered you? Was there something that bothered you? Is the idea of going out with someone you really like a little scary because that's never really happened and it feels a little bit weird and unfamiliar? So a lot of our yeshiva and Beis Yaakov girls, for many of them, they've never had this feeling before. They don't know what it's supposed to feel like. And some of them sometimes have reported to me that they feel, it might sound strange, but some of them feel guyish or they feel inappropriate because, wait, I've been in separate schools. I never had a boyfriend. I always behaved. I'm an FFB girl. I went to Beis Yaakov, and a boy is looking at me in a weird kind of way, and it makes me feel very uncomfortable, right? And you and I both know that that's okay, and it's healthy as long as it's done in a tzniustic way. But for a lot of girls, that makes them feel very uncomfortable. And they'll say no just because of that. So when I'm able to break it down and figure out that that was the reason and explain to them that's normal and talk that out, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, that's normal. Well, he actually was a really nice guy. And I did have a nice time, but it just made me feel uncomfortable. I was like, well, let's just take it slow. Let's just say, we like to take things slowly. So, these kinds of things are really kind of helpful throughout the process.
That's great.
All right. What other questions do we have there on the on our grand list?
I'm just trying to decide which one to go to because okay. We kind of talked about that. Okay.
And while you're deciding on a question, people should know that they should feel free to send in questions to me and to you. And what we're going to do is have a running list of questions. Right. And we won't get to all of them all of the time, but we'll just keep that running list. And we're hoping to do this once a month, and we'll just keep working down the list as we go.
We even have the next one scheduled for February 20th. So yeah. And it'll be where people can be present on the conversation while we're recording it. Okay. So, okay, we talked about research. We talked about what you can and cannot say. How about how do we even find the research? How do we even know who to research? Through resumes. So what's your feeling on resumes? I have a few things about resumes in general. How much do you put on there? How little do you put on there? What must be on there? Pictures, no pictures, and references. This is a question I'm adding in.
Yes.
Who do you put as your references?
So you just make sure that I'm making sure to hit all of these, okay? So resumes, people get very uncomfortable with the word resume. A resume is essentially, basically what used to happen is people used to call up a girl and say, where do you work? Oh, what's your address? Where do you live? How tall are you? And they used to just write it down, and they had all these millions of little pieces of paper running around. And as modern technology allowed us to all have email addresses, it was just easier to put it all on one sheet of paper. I know for some people, this word resume is very like anxiety provoking. They feel like, is this just a meat market? Am I just a paper? No, you're not just a paper. But if you don't have a paper, nobody's going to remember who you are. So you need to have a something. I know that when I've tried in the past to set people up and I didn't have a piece of paper to go on, like it made it so challenging and difficult that I often just moved on to somebody else that I had a resume for. So here are the components of a resume that need to be on there. Your name, your age, height, schools you've gone to, where you live, your job, or if you're in school right now, if you're learning. If you're a guy, references are definitely important. Okay, now the two things that are controversial on a resume are pictures and do I write something about myself or do I just give you information? Okay, so I'm going to give you my personal opinion. This does not have to be everyone else's opinion. It's just my personal opinion. When you are a shadchan, and this is what I've heard from many shadchanim, when you are a shadchan and you get hundreds of resumes a day, and all you have are a bunch of names, heights, ages, cities, yeshivas, and references, it literally is such a blur and a dizzying sight that I can't even describe to you what that pile feels like. Because essentially they all look and sound exactly the same. Now you and I both know that everyone is a beautiful Tzelem Elokim and very unique, and each person is an olam mole. So it's obviously people are not exactly the same, but when you look at it on paper, it's very challenging. So I personally appreciate when people write like a short blurb about who they are. And when I say who they are, and I work with people to write resumes and update the resumes and write them so that people sound a little bit more unique than just generic, I'm looking for something to get to the core of who they are. What makes them tick? What makes them run? So that I could try to understand what would be a balance for that personality. Okay, so when we're dealing with, just a nice girl looking for a Yer Shemayim, and he should be a Ben Torah, and he should be kind and a Bal Midos. I mean, I can't tell you how many resumes say that. I want to hear qualities that are core to your personality, that are unique to you, that would be of great importance of your core goals and your values, that would be a balance to you and your personality and the home that you want to build, because that gives me more insight, and that helps me think of an idea for you. Okay, that's what many shadchanim will tell me. So that is why I think it's beneficial. And a small little blurb about who you are and a small blurb about what you're looking for, as least generic as possible. No, do not write me a whole Megillah about your whole life story. I will do research, I will figure it out, and I will meet you on the date, we will discuss it. Nothing should exceed 1 page. 1 page, that's it, okay? As far as references, people tend to choose big names, the rabbi of my shul, this Rosh Hashiva, this person who knows my family. Let me tell you who I prefer to put on resumes. People who know how to give information. Okay, very big Rosh Hashiva often don't have time to take these phone calls. And when they do, they say, very nice girl, very nice boy, because they're busy and frankly have a lot of other important things to tend to, and I understand that. I would rather you put someone on the resume who really is excited about your child, because that excitement is going to come over in the enthusiasm, in the conversation, and it very often can tilt the scale between a yes or a no. So if you're going to have a Rebbitzin or a neighbor say, yeah, Leah's like a nice girl, she's very sweet, is she smart? I think so. Or someone's going to say, oh my goodness, Leah, she grew up in my house and she's such a neshama, she's so warm. When you're having someone go on and on about your child, it sends a message about how wonderful this kid is, and you should have someone talk about your child that way. I think it is important. So I prefer people who know how to give information. So for instance, telling somebody that this girl is amazing and this guy is amazing and they're so amazing, it doesn't mean anything. They're great, amazing, she's just so great and great and great and amazing and great. I have no idea what you're talking about. I honestly don't even count that as a reference. I don't even know what that means. okay? So if you encounter somebody like that, sometimes it'll be like a friend of the girl or a friend of the guy. The best way to navigate that would to be, oh, that's so wonderful. Could you give me an example of why they're great? The examples I find to be key, really key, because they might be great in general and might be great for your kid, but you want to narrow down what is great so it could be a little bit more, understandable, so to speak.
I have a question on that. Because when I've made calls before, I have mixed feelings over, do you put, let's say, your single friends on as references? Or is it better to put married friends on as references? Is there a difference?
I think one single friend is fine.
Okay.
Not 5.
Okay.
One single friend, someone who knows your family very well, someone maybe like the rub of your shoulder, if you have a relationship with him, not if you don't. I've called references of big people, and they had no idea who I was talking about. Yeah. That's a problem. If the rub of your shoulder doesn't know who you are, don't put him. Well, that's a problem in general. But then don't put him on your resume, I think I think that's definitely important. Also, when you're doing research, don't necessarily look at the references. Look at the references and say, do I recognize this name? Oh, wait a second, Schwartz. Wait, I think that Schwartz from Cleveland is related to my friend. Let me call my friend. And if they live in the same city, they probably know this girl or guy, right? So look for connections. Try to make connections and find someone. The best is someone who knows you, who knows them, who would be able to be really honest with you. That's the best. But, we don't always have that opportunity, but we try.
That's great. Okay, I think we have time.
We didn't get to pictures.
Oh, pictures. Yes.
Okay, so pictures. All right, again, controversial. So I told you, the blurbs are controversial, the pictures are more controversial, okay? So I have been told before, well, the whole problem with Shidduchim is because we ask for pictures. So again, my own humble opinion, nobody has to follow what I say. This is my own opinion and my own experience in dealing with this for a long time. This is 2019. If you do not give a picture, they will find a picture. It might be on social media. It might be through Facebook. It might be through an old yearbook. It might be through an old picture that somebody's brother smuggled out of his sister's room, a picture because someone asked him for a picture, right? So the point is that they're probably gonna get a picture, and I think it's better to just give one that you want to be seen, because
and smile in the picture. Smile
a lot. Smiling is very attractive. Yeah. So, I just think that it's 2019. They're going to get a picture anyways. Give a good one. Do not feel pressured to give a full body picture. I think that's not appropriate. Mm-hmm. But, shoulders up, I think, is very fair. And here's my policy. If you give a picture, you get a picture. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, it's not fair to just be giving pictures to boys and boys never send anything back. A girl also wants to know who she's going out with. And it's not just for looks, by the way. People think pictures are just for looks. You get a certain feeling, a certain smile, a certain warmth, a certain, again, this is also very controversial, but I have this thing when I set couples up, I like them to have a coupling look. They say that, the neshamos that go together, the guf also has a similar kind of look, right? So very often you'll see couples that even look like siblings sometimes. It's like uncanny, right? And it's literally like two halves of a whole. Like, oh my gosh, this is such a couple. Now, do all the couples that I've set up, look exactly like each other? No, but many of them do. And to me, that's like a sign for me that like, oh, so when I see a picture, I'm like, oh yes, this I could see this going. A picture is not necessarily always going to the boy. Often it's just going to the mother. The mother wants just to make sure that it's a basically pleasant looking normal person. So I'm very pro pictures. You don't have to give a picture, although in today's day and age, it's probably going to the bottom of the pile. So keep that in mind, because again, it just sounds, it looks like everybody else. And with so many piles of resumes, people don't know who you are. So it gives a little bit more of a personal touch to this piece of paper, which looks flat. I mean, think about it. No picture, no blurb about yourself, no blurb about what you're looking for. It's like a list of yeshivos, your age, your name, and some references. Right. What does that mean? So unless I'm a shopman who's willing to call hundreds of people referencing every single resume I get, which is a tremendous amount of work, what am I going on here? So I'm very pro. Now, something else about pictures that I just want to throw out there is, if a boy or girl are traveling out of town for a date, I think that it is even more fair for them to have a picture because they're investing a lot of time, effort, energy, money to come in and date, and they deserve to have a picture to see, you know, who they're coming to meet. And if they really, really do not feel comfortable with the picture, then they might not want to make that level of investment. So I think a picture is very fair. In addition, we live in a world that is very open and very exposed to lots of things that they were not exposed to in previous generations. And yes, of course, we try to limit it as best as we can, but it's not a perfect system. And so, yes, guys and girls are exposed to lots of images and pictures and things they shouldn't be exposed to. And the reality is that in order for a couple to have a healthy marriage and a man to have eyes just for his wife, he should think that this girl is a pretty girl. Not extremes, not going crazy here. We're not getting obsessed. She doesn't have to be a model, but he should think that she's a pretty girl. And maybe he sees the picture before the date, maybe he doesn't, but he still should go out with her and think she's a pretty girl. Of everyone in the entire world, he's going to marry one woman, hopefully. Only one, hopefully. He, you know, he deserves to make sure that he thinks she's a pretty girl. So what are we hiding? You know, he's going to go out with her anyway. He's going to see her anyway. And I don't believe in torturing anybody to put them on a date with someone who doesn't want to be there. Meaning, if a guy sees a picture of a girl and he doesn't want to go out with her because of the picture, what? So now you're going to force him to go on a date. He's going to sit there looking at his watch. He's going to look out the window. He's going to look at the door who's coming in to buy coffee. You know, it's not fair to your child. Why do that to your child? So that's my personal picture view. I know people won't agree with it, and that's fine.
Yeah, you know, I think that I'm just, as you're talking, you know, I keep going back to how you started, which was that, you know, it's a journey. And some people are going to do the journey of growth with their partner and with their spouse at a young age and grow up together essentially and develop. And some are going to develop first and then find them. And I think it's just, you know, it's important to play around with this. Like, why am I hesitant to putting a picture out there? What is it that I'm hesitant about? If I have some self-esteem issues or I'm insecure about my body, or I'm insecure, it's kedai to understand where that's coming from, right? Is it just a self-esteem issue that really has no reflection on what the outside looks like? Isn't it the outside? Does it need to? Maybe I do need to lose weight. Maybe I do need to get medication for my, like, who knows? You know, there's things that we need to do for our own growth so that we can then be present for that relationship. So I think it's just the information it's good. It's about, you know, listen, you're married, I'm married, God willing, it'll be in June, 28 years. So, so my husband and I kind of grew up together in a sense. I mean, I was 24 when we got married and he was 28, you know? So we weren't so young, but we also weren't firm when we got married, and that's a whole other story. But, but, you know, marriage is such a work in progress and such, it's like my husband says something, such wisdom. He says, you can't go into your marriage expecting your spouse to change, but you must go into your marriage expecting that your spouse is going to change. We're changing. We all grow and change, you know.
Anyway, there's a book or a show or something called "I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change."
Right. Exactly. Right, so. This has been great. So we're at an hour, so we'll wrap up here. Okay. For those of you that want to send in questions that we can address at the next webinar, which will be Emet Hashem February 20th at 10:30 Eastern Time, and we're going to send out, like, I basically just send it out to the link to a few WhatsApp chats that I know, and then it just kind of goes viral from there. But I think that what might be helpful is for us to start one that's only administrators post, and this way we can post the link to the next webinar and post the recording to the one we just did. So email me, chaya.parkoff, chaya.parkoff, parkoff @gmail.com. You can also email Rachel at dategreat, the 8s or the number 8s.com. If you want to submit questions and if you want to get on either the WhatsApp chat or an email distribution so that you can help share this information. And I guess I'll close with, I just want to say on a personal note, Rachel has been very helpful and this is a question I have for next time, which is, how many people do you talk to while you're going out with somebody? It's on my list here.
All right.
Rachel's the person that we talk to, that my daughter talks to, and which is great to have, you know, one person that you can bounce things off that has objective. But so I just want to say thank you so much, and I'm so grateful that we have to Rabbi Krohn for putting us together.
Oh, no, sorry.
But I just want to remind us, you know, that all the hishtadlut that we have to do, all the footwork, everything that we have to do to, you know, make it look like Hashem's not making miracles on a moment-to-moment basis. You know, our emunah that the struggle towards finding your mate or helping your child find their mate is a vehicle for us to grow in our relationship with Hashem and our emunah, and knowing that Hashem has a perfect plan, and it's all good, and we're part of a bigger picture that's unfolding. So that's really, really important, but that we should daven, you know, that never underestimate the davening. I'm going to tell the story that I told you, and we'll close with that, which is I heard a story recently on a shiur by Rabbi Ephraim Shapiro, and I'm telling probably the details, not 100%, but the essence you'll get. So there was a boy, and he was at a sleepaway camp, and he was, you know, engaging in some behavior that they were not happy about, and they were wondering, is he going to really be able to stay in the yeshiva after the summer and what have you. And they decided, the mother's a single mother, you know, we're not going to say anything to her because there's really nothing she could do. You know, we're just going to try to work with him over the summer, and hopefully he'll be able to stay in yeshiva. And if he blows it over the summer, he won't be able to. But we're not gonna even bother telling the mother because she can't do anything. And so they go through the summer, and unfortunately the boy did not meet their expectations, and they had to let him go from the yeshiva. And when the mother learned of this, and they let her know, you know, what was going on, she said, why is this the first that I'm knowing of this? Why didn't you tell me? And they said, well, we didn't want to really bother you with it. I mean, there was nothing you could do. You know, this was nothing you could do. So we figured we'll work with him. But unfortunately, and she said, nothing I could do? She said, you deprived me from being able to daven for my son. What do you mean nothing I can do? And a shaila went to a big rav, and it was the psak was that the boy had to be let back into the yeshiva because they didn't do everything they could do for that boy, because they the biggest ingredient, which is davening and letting a mother daven. So I just want to remind us all to just keep davening for each other, and davening, and then also knowing that when our prayers are answered, to continue davening and continue being close to Hashem. When those prayers, please God, will be answered.
Davening sometimes are seeds that need to be planted over many, many years, watered and planted and sun, and they don't always get answered right away. I can even say from my own experience that there were things that I davened for years for a husband that I see in my husband, and it's like I literally was davening for like 10, 15 years, and I was like, wow, I can't. They were very specific, let's say, things that I never thought I would actually get, but I saw them years later. So you never know when it'll take root, but your tefillos grow. They don't necessarily just lie dormant. They grow over time, and so it's important to know that.
Yeah.
All right, Chaya, this has been wonderful.
Same here.
Looking forward to what is it? February 20th.
February 20th. Right? Didn't we say 20th? It's a Wednesday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time.
20th.
And we will, ladies will be able to call in if you just want to do the audio, or you can actually be on the webinar watching it live. And we had a little recording glitch last night, so we don't have live people on. It's just the two of us. Thanks to me, there was a recording glitch. But you could do that, and we'll send out a reminder. And again, you can email me, chaya.parkoff@gmail.com, or rachel@dategreat.com. The 8 is the number 8, not the word. And everybody should just have a wonderful Shabbos. And
excellent. Thank you so much, Chaya.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Good Shabbos.